think it's January is going to be the test. The next 2 weeks are a little funky. I think the knowledge brokers going out and maybe outmaneuvering the market for their clients, especially the people that wanted to be in something by now or wanted to sell by now, because there are serious folks out there. But come January 2nd, when Club 87, if you don't know what Club 87 is, that's the 87% of agents that will be out of the business in 5 years. When they wake up from their eggnog-induced hangover and eating Christmas tree edibles, the market's going to be moving, right? And I think if you are not getting educated about current real estate market conditions, whether you're a real estate agent yourself, you're in mortgages, finance, accounting, title, you're an attorney because there's attorney states out there, all of the above, you're doing yourself and your client base a disservice. This is the Knowledge Brokers Podcast. I'm Tom Toole here with the birthday girl, Lisa Chinatti. Happy birthday, Lisa. I bet you thought I forgot. I actually didn't really know until I looked at Facebook. How old are you today? You're looking spry for 38. I feel like you're looking pretty good. Is that accurate?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, that's a fuck yourself, Tom, right there with the. So anyway, happy birthday, Lisa. Really
Thanks.
grateful for you. I know Byron is too, even though he decided not to show up today. We've got some news, right? This might be the best positive news week we've had in 2023. Unfortunately, it's like the second to last week of the year. Kind of tells you what happened. The Fed came out, they had their meeting, and it was widely expected they were not going to raise rates. That was pretty clear. My concern that I had was the commentary afterwards. What was the Fed going to say post-meeting? Was Jerome Powell going to put his foot in his mouth again and talk about, well, we're waiting and seeing, or we're going to continue to monitor raising rates in the future? That's not what happened. Very positive comments from the Fed. Looks like they're done with the rate hikes. They're talking about expecting 3 rate cuts. Yes, that's rate cuts in 2024, followed by more in 2025 and 2026 based on the dot plot. And then the market reacted very favorably. The Dow Jones.
Christmas came early.
Yes, it did. And Santa Claus was throwing out lower mortgage rates. We saw 6 3/8 locally. Now we're at 6.5 today. I know, Lisa, you're seeing the same thing. The Dow Jones rallied substantially. How are you feeling about all this, Lisa? Happy birthday. We got no rate cuts. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's actually the best case scenario. I think it's amazing. I think the one thing that I'm kind of cognizant of, though, is that what this has done is continued volatility, right? And I think it's super cool to celebrate that rates are below 7. And if you look back to this same time last year, rates are virtually the same. I don't know if you did that exercise. I went through it last night. And
that's what you're here for.
A year ago today, mortgage rates were averaging 6.54% nationally. So to be right back at the same point today is pretty fascinating and totally awesome, but certainly cannot discount the volatility that meant that like 60 days ago, we were above 8%. Mm-hmm. And so the one thing that I'm being super cognizant of is that the volatility, while has been favorable right now, it can also be really anxiety producing for consumers who might not know what the data means and whether they should or should not buy, and, kind of rushing into decisions that may not be the best decisions for them for fear that the window of opportunity is really small.
That's a really great point, because this has been the most volatile year for rates that I've seen in over 2 decades selling real estate. And it was a day by day thing. And now we're back to that in a positive way. I'll take the positivity, because earlier in the year it was like, oh, they're going up, they're coming down. Yep. And people would be so stressed out about what should I do, because there's no certainty. And, fortunately for the volatility that we're seeing now, there's companies out there that offer the buy down. They offer a relock that this didn't happen a couple years ago. So I give credit to a lot of mortgage companies. Tomo Mortgage Network comes to mind as someone that does this. I know there's a lot of great local lenders that do it as well, because that creates more peace of mind for consumers. I mean, imagine you're buying a house and you went to the top of your price point, because let's face it, most buyers always go to the top of their price point because they don't want to have to move again. They want to make sure they can be in a place long term because of the stresses with moving. And then all of a sudden, you see rates come down like this. Imagine if you locked in at 8%, a couple weeks ago. I mean, before Thanksgiving, we were north of 8. And you
Yep.
lock that in because you're unsure based on what's happened this year, because it was talk about rates could go even higher. Are we going to see 8.5%? That was the conversation we had on the podcast here. We're very fortunate to be in a time when mortgage companies do that, because in the past they have not done that, or they would charge a relock fee or would cost people money. So I'm glad to see the market reacting the way it is. That's definitely good news. What I also like is that the comments were really rolled back. And when I looked at what the Fed said afterwards, what Jerome Powell talked about, he didn't come out and say this. I always feel like you got to read between the lines with these people, because they're politicians at their core, right? They work for the government. And we've talked on the show here how 2%, we were getting there. There was progress towards 2% inflation. That was the target all year long.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of like, they didn't come out and say this, but they said, hey, we're going to reset the target. We're looking for 2.4% in 2024. And maybe we'll get down to 2% in 2025. And that's as far as you're ever going to see someone from Washington, D.C. go and say, hey, maybe we're not right here. Maybe we got this wrong, or maybe we're readjusting our targets, because it was not the we've got to get to 2% fist getting pounded on the table like we heard all year. It was a much different tone. And I found that to be very critical. What's your reaction to those comments?
Well, I mean, they're super positive, right? And I think you're 100% right that it's the reading between the lines that come with it. And I think one of the things that is super impactful is that it is the soft landing that everybody had kind of been hoping for. And instead of forcing it down, I think what they're doing is being super strategic to protect jobs and to protect the economy as a whole. So huge positive. I think it will be interesting to see how consumer confidence responds end of Q1, and whether consumers continue to feel it, because there is some stuff that is still slightly elevated in pricing, and the data is showing us that consumers are still feeling it, right? So like I said, without a doubt, definitely positive, but I think that there's still room for things to reverse and go back the other way. And that's what I'm being super cautious about.
I agree with the cautious outlook, because if you think something's too good to be true, it usually is, right? We know that from experience. We've run businesses, and that's just life experience in general. And all that in mind, I think that what you're seeing is you're looking at the CPI data or the PCE data. So the consumer price index, the cost of goods that consumers actually buy, or the personal consumption numbers that they look at with inflation. That's the Fed's preferred reading. They're trending pretty favorably. So I do agree. You got to wait until Q1. This is a funny time of year to see this rate drop, because we've talked about on the show, and we've talked about, I think on every platform out there, that some people are mentally checked out. I mean, this time next week, it's December 22nd. So you're getting to a point where people are just going to stop working and stop everything to focus. And they might be traveling. They might be going away. Like there's reasons for that. You and I don't believe in that. I know that's a fact, unless you have a trip planned or something. But I mean, there's still a work week left. There's still deals to be done, homes to be sold, appointments to be held, and that's not everyone's mindset. So it's kind of a funny, and it's not. I'm not even talking about real estate agents. I'm talking about consumers that just can't deal with this stuff. They're just like, hey, I'm out. My kid's got a holiday show next week, and I'm going to 10 different Christmas parties this weekend. So January is the time to see what's going to happen. Now, the good news is we don't have a Fed meeting again until February. So we're going to have some time for this policy to shake out a little bit too, which I think is fortunate.
I agree. I think it's fortunate. I don't know. It in some ways might be good if there was some middle ground where there was some data to come out. I think that a lot is going to shake out.
That'll come out. Sorry, the data is going to come out. The Fed's just not going to meet until February. That's my point.
Understood. But, and I understand on the data side, I mean more how they're going to react to the data. I think it's going to be a little bit tricky to gauge, because I think that there's going to be a lot of activity that spurs up based on the decreasing rates. It's also, I don't know about you guys, but we're a little bit seasonally warmer here, climate wise, like legit, like temperatures are a little bit warmer, which tends to keep the economy a little bit stronger, a little bit longer, not just in housing, but in a bunch of other things around the greater Boston area that start to get a little bit slower as the weather gets colder. And that we're running seasonally warm, and you can kind of see where things are staying stronger than they normally would longer. Restaurants and, other things that are going to factor into all of the reports that come out, and potentially even what the Fed does decide to do.
I agree on the weather issue in the Northeast, and the real time you're going to figure that out is going to be in January and February, because
Right.
December, everyone's, hey, it's Christmas time, it's the holidays, let's go grab a holiday cocktail, let's go out to dinner, all that stuff's happening, there's parties going on. Then January 2nd comes, and it gets real cold real quick. It's dark out, all the lights are gone. It's still dark at like 4:30. And that's when winter really starts to suck, because there's not this like fun celebration to look forward to. And what I would be interested to see is what happens then, because at the next 2 weeks, you've got this false sense of security that like, oh, business is still busy, people are still out, but then the wintertime comes and people don't want to do anything. They really buckle down or hunker down for the cold weather season. And historically, at least what I've seen, and I've charted this data for 22 years now, January, there's an opportunity to do some business then, to do some transactions and to beat the market, because a lot of people, their New Year's resolution, and I think in general, New Year's resolutions are bullshit. You could just start something new today and get a jump on everybody. But sometimes the New Year's resolution is, I'm getting out of this house, I'm moving, I want to buy something, I want to start looking, or I want to get in by the school year, which comes faster than you think, right? Imagine you got a 60 or a 90-day close, and we've seen sellers, they're negotiating longer term closes now to find something. So let's say you got a 90. Well, you're in January. That takes you to April when you're moving, right? So all of a sudden you're in the middle of the spring market. Maybe they need a lease back, right? We've seen some of these incredible things happen. You could be in June very quickly before the end of the first quarter when you're actually moving. So I agree with you. I think it's January is going to be the test. The next 2 weeks are a little funky. I think the knowledge brokers going out and maybe outmaneuvering the market for their clients, especially the people that wanted to be in something by now or wanted to sell by now, because there are serious folks out there. But come January 2nd, when Club 87, if you don't know what Club 87 is, that's the 87% of agents that will be out of the business in 5 years. When they wake up from their eggnog-induced hangover and eating Christmas tree edibles, the market's going to be moving, right? And I think it's really important. What do you think, Lisa? You know what I'm talking about. This is the second face of Lisa Chinatti, the disgust of, oh, I can't believe you're saying that, even though deep down, her cold Grinch heart is saying, oh, you're absolutely right. So I'm clear. January is going to be really the test here when we see things happen, and it's going to be a telltale sign.
Okay, so when do you think? Here's my question for you: when do you think rates get below 6? What's your gut?
My gut would tell me that we're going to see rates stay around where they are the next couple months. I don't think anything happens until
I agree.
We get some data and maybe the end of Q1. And the other thing to think about here, and BAM did a great piece on this. We've got this election coming up, right? And you know what's going to start happening after the first of the year? It's like primary season. Then you're going to start hearing about the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primaries and all this stuff. And what I'm clear Washington doesn't want is an unhealthy economy and an affordability issue, because that has been a major pain point. If you look at a lot of the surveys that are out there, the majority, 60+% of potential voters are concerned about the economy. They're concerned about affordability. And that's not going to, it's 6.5%. It's a little better, right? But I don't think it's much improved. It's still double what we saw, a couple years ago. So I think Q1 is maybe when we could see rates dip down below 6, but it's going to be dependent on what the Fed does and what they come out and say. These next 2 months, it's kind of stay the course mode, which I like, because things are going to play out, and then we'll have to see the reaction after that. And once we get all like the December spending data and those sort of things too, because those are real numbers. Q4 numbers are going to be coming out, and that dictates a lot of policy decisions that get made.
Understood. But so your gut says end of Q1.
That would be the earliest. Now, I'd love to be wrong, by the way, but that's what the data is telling me. What about you? What's the Chinatti brain trust thinking?
Mine is actually think it's going to be a little bit later.
Okay.
I think it's end of Q2, maybe. I'm not as optimistic as you on this one.
I think Q2 is a target for sure, though. I mean, whether it's the beginning or the end, because if you look at historically, historical data always tells the story. When you see
Yeah.
rates really drop, it's like it's in that second quarter, whether it's the beginning of the second quarter or like June, right? And it could be one of the two. And it's not going to slow down the market because demand is still there. But if rates do come down like that, it could be a pretty bonkers second half of the year.
No doubt. So you think we're totally past eights?
You know, I don't think anybody knows. I mean, we can sit there and make predictions all the time. I feel like
I love predictions.
So I don't see 8 happening given what the Fed said. Now, if they do a total 180, yes, that could certainly happen. But if they're talking about a rate cut environment, and do you study this dot plot, Lisa? Do you know what I'm talking about here?
I do. Yep, totally.
So if you look at the
I have it
dot
open
plot,
on my computer.
awesome. So maybe we can, if you can send that to Bobby, and we can actually put that up here. I'd love everyone to see this because the dot plot tells you what the voting members. Because everyone hears Jerome Powell, but the Fed's not just Jerome Powell. There's all these other voting members. And the dot plot for the Fed, I mean, they're talking about in the 2% range for the federal funds rate in a couple years. So unless there's a total reverse on that, I don't see. I mean, this is all the voting members. This is what they're telling us. So I just don't see that happening. I mean, because of that's their intention now. Now, let's say a new administration gets elected in November, right? That could change things. So as things currently sit, who knows? I mean, we don't know. I mean, we don't but that dot plot is to me the telltale sign because those are the people that are actually making decisions. And then you get people like the New York Fed president, John Williams. I don't know if you saw this article. He said this morning that the Fed is not talking about rate cuts right now, which, I find hard to believe since the press conference a couple days ago said, yes, we are talking about rate cuts. And it's like you got all this political jockeying. So that's kind of the challenge here with this. But the majority of people are predicting a lower federal funds rate in the next couple of years. So we could be off 8 for a while because of that.
I agree. That part I agree with. I think that's over. I think, like I said, I think I'm just a little bit more conservative on how long it's going to take to drop back down below 6. So I'd love to see it happen sooner, but I'm also thinking it's going to be a little bit later.
Well, and you could very well be right. I mean, I don't see anything happening until the very end of Q1, beginning of Q2. I think that's the soonest you're going to see it. So, with that in mind, Lisa, right? So I'm looking at this Realtor.com housing forecast.
That open. Yep, got it open.
I like this because if this came out this week as well, and until now, the only predictions that we had were Redfin's. Were the most bullish. Redfin's predicting 4.3 million home sales in 2024. And now Realtor.com and Lisa's friends at NAR are predicting a 4.71 million existing home sales in 2024. And that's been the most bullish out of all of them. And that figures up 13.5% for what's anticipated to happen this year, which we got a pretty good handle on at this point. There's a couple weeks left in the year.
Oh, no, just to correct. I think it's 4.07, not 4.7.
No, they're forecasting 4.71 million home sales next year. Right now, they're saying that they're predicting it's going to be around 4.1 million home sales or 4.07. We don't have the final numbers yet. 4.1 is what's forecasted for 2023.
Oh, all right. Then I might be looking at a different report.
I'm going to send you this right now so you can look at, unless BAM got this totally wrong, because I'm reading the BAM article here. So that could be a problem. I'll send this to you in Slack right now, Lisa. I want you to look at this here because, if we're seeing an increase of 13.5% sales, right, and we're seeing that kind of a jump, and remember, that means let's do the math here. That means there's going to be 9.42 million real estate sides, right? So there's a lot of that happening here. They're predicting GDP is going to grow 1.5%. Median home prices, they're predicting they're going to be up about 1%. This is all pretty positive and stable information. Lisa, that should be in your Slack messages right now.
Yeah, I just sent you from the Realtor.com website back in Slack.
So what do we have to get Byron on the phone here?
Yeah, take a peek. I see that they're predicting 0.1% growth year over year in existing home sales.
What's the date on this? That would be because this just came out.
Yeah, this is the 2024 housing market forecast and predictions from directly on the Realtor.com website.
Wow. So I think we've exposed Bobby. I think we might need to edit this part out. I don't know. Let's look at this here.
Here, I'm gonna text you the link.
I'm looking at it now. Yeah, I'm seeing it here. Let me get to the report. Well, so Redfin's been the most bullish so far. So let's look at that, right? I can't get over this here. All right, NAR. So what are you doing for your birthday, Lisa? While we figure this out, what plans do you and Steve have?
Well, so Steve's birthday was on the 13th. So we always celebrate together. So we'll celebrate tomorrow night. Both my kids are home from school for the winter break. So we'll spend the night in the city and go to dinner and, start to engage in all the holiday festivities, including my Christmas tree edibles. Just kidding.
No, and it's legal in Massachusetts. So, I mean, you don't have a problem there. So, all right. So, Lisa, I think you have some dated information. I'm looking at the realtor.com site now, and they're actually quoting the same thing. So, we'll this is the one time Lisa Chinatti's ever been wrong, everybody. So this is the first time it's ever happened.
How is that possible?
I'm looking at, I think you have a dated number. This is December 13th. I'm looking at this right now. And then this just came out. So, and
I'm like legit on realtor.com.
Here, I'm going to send you this link right now. I mean, maybe it's their shitty website that they have that they spend all our dues on. Maybe is that the problem? I'm on NAR's website. So I'm on NAR.realtor. I'm going to send this to you literally as we speak here. And so, you know what? I think you're confusing realtor.com with NAR predictions. I think that's what happened here. So,
all right. Well, I was using.
Are you tired of taking horrible courses offered by your local realtor board or the NAR online classes? I know I am. And the fact is you don't get a lot of value from those courses. So here's the good news. BAMX, your real estate edutainment platform, is here. You can find out how to master objections with me, the objection handling king, practiced and scripted for over 20 years. You can learn how to use ManyChat with the broke agent and Jill from BAM. You can work with Lisa Chinatti about managing your CRM, understand how to use Canva for marketing, get Instagram hacks. All this stuff is right there in BAMX. Just use the code KnowledgeBrokers. Educate yourself, grow your business, sell more houses.
The realtor.com.
Right. This is what happens. All right. So realtor.com, right? So we'll look this demonstrates a really great point. You've got realtor.com. I've got a lot of respect for Danielle Hale. We're working on getting her on the pod. We got NAR. We got Redfin in the middle. Where do you think sales are going to end up next year? I mean, this is kind of our prediction episode.
All right. I see you are on NAR. So that's funny.
Maybe I misspoke earlier, but so look at that range though. We're talking about a 700,000 difference in home sales from two very reputable sources. Where do you think sales are going to come in? I mean, I think this is the big challenge here is what agents can predict and what they can control. So what's your take on that?
Given what's happened with rates this week, I believe home sales will be up closer to the NAR numbers next year. I think I don't think they're going to be as low as they were this year. Actually, I'm going to rescind that. I think it's going to be in the middle. How about that? I think that there's still going to be some locked in inventory, but I think that there's, and I've said this before, a ton of opportunity with buyers or sellers who bought in that 2-year mark where they can afford to upgrade, especially with rates now coming back down to fairly close to what they were late 2022. We're not that far off.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I like the NAR report. I think the realtor.com one might be a little more pessimistic. I mean, I think Redfin might be actually right here. And Redfin usually has good data. Say what you want about Redfin, but their analytics department, their website is pretty strong. So, if we see a bump in sales, right? And we see rates come down, let's say middle of the year, they come down like you're talking about, we get to summertime and we're seeing maybe 5.75%, 6%, right? Which would be great for everybody. There's going to be a run on the market, not dissimilar to what we saw in 2020, where the second half of the year is when you sold a bunch of houses. But right now, what we are seeing, and this is anecdotal because we've been doing call nights, and it's all about getting people ready for Q1 on our team. I know you're doing the same thing. You guys had like a white elephant. Very cool. We did something similar. There's people that have been maybe thinking about moving for about 2 years now, and they're ready to pull the trigger. And there was some information that came out according to Zillow that if you look at the average seller, only 1 in 10 sellers, so 10%, make a decision in 30 days to sell. The majority of them think about it for 2 to 3 months, and even more than that have been debating it for longer than that, and even 6+ months. So you've got to get the reality through your head here that, like, picking up like you're circle dialing, you're calling expireds, whatever it is, and every lead source is going to be a little different.
Yep.
You've got to be planting the seeds now to have a big 24 and 25 even. I mean, it's that's the long game is what's winning, and so many agents just don't want to do it. They're used to that. They think the unicorn market's coming back, which is gone forever, just like unicorns. They're dead. It's over. And it's just not going to happen. So looking at these predictions here, I'm feeling cautiously optimistic, but I also know it's going to be a dogfight, and you're really going to have to get in there and do some hand-to-hand combat to hit your sales goals for the next 12 months.
I agree with that. So in the Redfin report, they predicted that home prices fall slightly. Do you agree with that?
That's going to be depending on where you are. I mean, I think there's markets we're already seeing that, right? Like Austin, San Antonio.
Okay, that's
places
fair. All right. Your market, Philadelphia.
No. Actually,
neither in Boston.
Maybe in part of the city, yes, because I think some of the neighborhoods that, I mean, we have Philadelphia is, Boston is a little bit of, even though I look at them as comparable markets because of the suburban markets there, Philadelphia is a much larger city geographically. There's some parts of the city where the prices are not going up, and there's other parts where they're going up substantially. And I think that's any market that's that large. In the suburbs, I don't see it happening at all. I mean, looking at, we've got a 1.3 month supply right now of homes available in the suburban counties that collar Philadelphia. There's 4 of them. That's the average. You got to see like 4, 5, 6 months of inventory for that to really make a difference. Now, some school systems in some neighborhoods might not see the same bounce because people don't like it. There's all this local stuff that people don't get. In general, I don't see places with low inventory seeing prices come down. But markets that were overbuilt, like Austin, Texas, for example, I mean, I think they're going to have a little bit of a more of a challenge.
Yeah, no doubt. It's fascinating. Speaking about months of inventory, I was running some reports a couple hours ago this morning, and looking at how buyer demand impacts actual months of supply, and that it's not just the number of homes sitting on the market, which I think is sometimes a data point that agents tend to get lost in. For instance, in 2021, we had in Massachusetts, like on today's date, 2,700 listings, which represented 2 weeks of supply. Last year, we had 4,086, which was 1.04 months. This year, we only have 3,755, but the number of months of inventory has gone up to 1.23. So it's fascinating to kind of watch how the buyer demand factors into the available months of supply.
One of the first statistics I learned, Lisa, when I started, investing in myself as a real estate agent, this is a long time ago, is absorption rate, right? And this is, and let me give some clarity on this. This is right when the market started to crash in 2008. So you needed to know these stats, because telling someone, hey, prices are going down and your home's not worth as much as you think might be one of the most challenging conversations in real estate, and a conversation that everyone needs to be practicing and working on right now. We did a training on it this week because it's, hey, you got a listing, it's not moving. It's time to talk to them, because if you don't have that conversation, you know what's going to happen? The listing will come off the market and some other agent's going to sell it after you did a lot of the work. So that being said, absorption rate is exactly what Lisa's talking about. So it's the rate at which homes sell in an area over a time period. So if it's taking longer for homes to sell, to your point, you could have less homes on the market, but it's taking longer. The supply can go up, even though the number of home sales aren't going up, because in order to make a sale, you need a buyer and you need a seller. So that's a really important number to understand. I would present it to clients. I don't know how you guys train on this. I'd love to hear this. We tell them, hey, here on average, there's one home selling every X days based on the current supply. So and I take the last 6 months of data. I know you can always manipulate statistics however you want. I like 6 months. That's kind of like the appraisal standard that we have to deal with in real estate. So let's say there's 100 homes that sold over the past 6 months. So you divide that by 180. That's the pace of what homes are selling for. So 100 divided by 180. Let's do the math here for everybody just so they can understand this. So 100 homes in the target market sell over the past 6 months. That means 2 homes are selling a day. It's 0.55 days is the average, right? And if you got 50 homes on the market, so you take 50 times 0.55. That means there's a 27.5-day supply or a 28-day supply on the market. And then you can parlay that into, hey, we've been on the market 60 days and there's only a 27-day supply. So that's the market telling us something here. And given everything going on and the lack of a written reaction from a buyer, which is an offer, I'm clear we need to go to X to get the home sold. And then that's a really great script to use where you're using data. And you've also got to back it up. We did a video on this week of, hey, here's the reports. Here's the web traffic we're getting. Here's all the showings that we've had. Because the question you're going to get asked is, of course, Lisa, you want to drop the price, but what are you doing to market the home? And you've got to have an answer to that. And if you can't show them, hey, I've had 8,000 views here on realtor.com in 2 weeks. And on Zillow, we've had 99 saves and we've appeared in 7,000 searches. And we've had 12 showings that were scheduled. And out of the 12 showings, do you guys use showing time, by the way?
We do, which is one of the things that I was just going to
I'll let you explain that. But then if you use the reports that are available and learn how to use the software, hey, out of these 12 showings, 82% of these people thought we were priced too high. So we're getting traffic, and right now it only takes 6 to 10 showings to generate an offer. I'm clear we need to do this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, in order to get the home sold, and then stop talking and let them react. Tell us about showing time. I think this is one of the most underutilized tools in real estate when it comes to listing management.
There's so much to it. And I think that the deeper people dig into it, the more you can find. So one of the most powerful aspects that we use is being able to take listings in a zip code and in a price point and figure out how many showings each property has had. They don't give you the address, of course, but you can compare out, are your showings above average? Are they below average? And the conversations that you can have with the consumer from that point forward can kind of go in one of two different ways. If we're not getting the same showings as similar homes price-wise and in the same location, it's probably telling us that the offering up front isn't compelling, i.e. price, right? The consumer doesn't perceive it as a great value right up front. Or if we're getting a ton of showings but no offers, to your same point, when the consumer gets in there, it's not always price, but then it's important to dig into the feedback to understand what it is that's causing the consumer to think that it's a great option once they look at it online, enough so to walk through the door. But then by the time they walk out the door, they've decided that the value isn't in alignment. And sometimes it's something that can be remedied. Sometimes it's a pet odor or a food odor. It's a paint color in one specific area. It's the unphotographed bathroom that didn't make it into the online thing, into the online visuals. But it allows you to have a deeper conversation about what that looks like. Showing time also has a lot of great data about average days on market from a different perspective than MLS. And you can get some information about the agents who are showing in our market. You can pull some of I don't know if that's every market, but we can pull some of the information about agents who are actually showing some of those properties and compare out and contrast out if we can kind of suss out exactly what's going on with not getting the listing sold in the way that the consumer would want.
Really well said. And again, it's data is third-party validation, and it's not you telling them, hey, your home's not worth that much. But that's the strategy a lot of agents have, and they come off very aggressive. And it's personal. Look, it's someone's home. I don't care what anyone says. There's an emotional attachment, and you've got to treat that with the right amount of empathy. At the same time, you're not doing your job if you're not having this conversation. And the reports Lisa's referencing, there's the listing activity report, which I love.
Yep.
Here's a bonus hack for everybody. Don't send the agent copy, send the homeowner version. Because my very first listing I took, I had a very aggressive seller. He started calling all the agents who left cards in the house, asking them for feedback after I was already sending the feedback report. This guy was a handful. Don't get me wrong. We ended up doing 4 transactions with him. So obviously I was able to handle it. But like that can happen, right? That's a very real thing. What do you mean they didn't like the floor plan? They're going to get and this stuff happens because he cares about his home. I actually have more sympathy for that than I might have at the time when I was a 22-year-old moron listing this house. But that's a real life story. So send the homeowner version. There's also the pricing benchmark report, which is the one I know you're referencing. And this is a new feature they rolled out where you can create your sample size. We should get Showing Time to sponsor this episode. So you create your sample size and it's, hey, I'm looking for homes in Springfield, Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And I'm going to look at everything that's sold from 400 to 700,000 and create those statistics. And that's where you got to know the market a little bit. You can do it by zip code, by town, and I believe it's by area or municipality, depending on your market. So there's a lot of things you can do there that are giving the consumers more data to realize, hey, it's not me. It's not how well the home shows. It's how we're positioned right now. And we talk about affordability a lot. Well, knowing that buyers always go to their maximum amount, I would argue this year is going to be more price sensitive than ever because people are already at their peak and they want to transact. So you need to really focus on, you can't just throw the home on the MLS anymore and hope that it sells. I mean, you can never do that, but it happened. But the market, I'm clear, is going to be even more price sensitive than we might even realize coming into the next 12 months.
I think without a doubt. I did the 5 a.m. call this morning and kind of chatted about just that I think if agents have to learn how to navigate this very delicately and set expectations on both sides. I think the price sensitivity is going to exist for buyers who I think are going to, again, because of the volatility we started talking about at the very beginning of this podcast, might be feeling rushed to make a decision so that they don't miss the window of opportunity like they did last year.
Yep.
Right. And I think it's going to cause some second guessing of things. And I think potentially feeling pressured into waiving contingencies or adding contingencies that they might not be fully on board with for fear, out of fear, right? Like that's the biggest thing, is that consumers make decisions sometimes out of fear if the agents can't be the knowledge brokers and can't provide that empathy and real professional guidance. And so I think we could see a lot of bumpy transactions or even consumers sleeping on it and having second thoughts and backing out. I think from the seller side, the same thing, right? How many of us have probably over the past day or two received phone calls from sellers saying, I know we didn't talk about listing until February, but should I list now to take advantage of these crazy low rates and a potential bump in sales price? For some sellers, it might be the right decision to push the timeline a little bit forward. But for some other ones who are doing it out of fear, again, it could create bumpy transactions and a little bit of, remorse or regret that causes some fallout later on down the road.
I agree. And what sellers might need to wake up to, and this is where agents need to be very adamant about this, is that small things can kill deals. I'm talking about
Without a doubt.
not responding in a timely manner. We're going to go buy something else because we don't want to lose out. Maybe not, bickering over terms that don't really make a difference. I mean, I've seen deals fall apart, and this is a classic one where it really hurt the seller. They didn't want to get out of the house in the normal amount of time. And the buyer said, you know what? I got to get in by then. I'm going to go buy something else. And this was at a higher price point. And, when there's options in the market, because homes there's more options than there have been based on the supply conversation. That's where the knowledge broker is going to counsel their client. And you need to be pretty blunt at that point. I think that's where the care needs to go away. It's like, hey, Lisa, I'm clear that if we respond in this way, we could lose this deal. And you need to be like that freaking clear with these people, because if you're dancing around the subject, and I would even repeat yourself 2 or 3 times, because people have very selective listening. I didn't realize we could have lost the deal. Well, but just to be very clear, before we do this, I'm worried that X may happen if we respond in this way. You've got to make that crystal clear to these people, because we've all seen the seller that passes up on the first offer and the next offer is coming in significantly less, and it costs people money. And sometimes you only get one shot to sell these properties at the number that's going to work for everybody. So I cannot stress that enough.
I also, just to tag off of that, the other thing, we had this situation come up in the office just yesterday, actually. Agents needing to make sure that they're a little bit more transparent and honest through negotiations with other agents. We had a buyer agent submit an offer on a listing that had been on the market for 57 days. So you and I know what that's telling us. It was actually a great offer. It was a cash offer with no inspection and closing on the seller's timeline and about $10,000 below asking. And the listing agent came back to our buyer agent and said that all of a sudden she had 2 additional offers and she needed a best and final, to which the buyer actually said, I'm out. And then guess what happened? Got the phone call back from the listing agent that there was no other offer, and she wanted to know if we could keep the deal together. But the buyer was soured at that point and not willing to move forward.
I mean, that That's a code of ethics violation, number one, which we can get into. That's a whole other story. We had the same situation happen over the weekend. It was, hey, the home is sold, right? And this was at a new construction development at a very high price point. And we have the offer prepped, ready to go. Our clients go down to revisit the site. Oh, hey, the on-site agent tells them it's sold. And we're like, what the hell? Like, I mean, it's, and there's only so many buyers at these price points, right? And then all of a sudden, now the agent is pinging our team. Hey, I misspoke. I had some bad information. Well, that's a pretty major fuck up on your part, or it's not the right move. I mean, even if you were worried about the terms of the offer and everything else, give everyone some time to submit. And then a good listing agent is going to leverage one against the other. But you can't say that stuff. And buyers get turned up. Remember, this is an emotional purchase. Not everyone's going to be like myself or Lisa and understand, hey, I don't really care. I want the house for my family, right? I mean, that happens a lot. Like some people operate without emotion. Most buyers don't. So that's a major misstep there. And I mean, it's funny how, and then people just they do things for their reasons, not ours. And they're just pissed off. They're like, hey, screw it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Well, at that point, when you're waiving contingencies, trust is broken, right? And you can't talk somebody back into feeling trusting of moving forward with such a big financial transaction. So it's fine.
I actually have the buyer's back. I mean, every once in a while when these deals don't go ahead, I remember this was a couple of years ago and we were at a walkthrough and everything's fine. We had the listing and the agent comes in and says, we want all this stuff fixed. And we're like, hey, this is exactly how this guy hadn't lived in the property in 3 months. I never met this seller. I listed it and sold it over a phone call. And he goes, hey, you know what? I'm sick of this. They can either settle today or they're out. And he walked from the deal. They came back 3 weeks later and he goes, the only way I'm selling it to them is if they pay me a higher price. And they really wanted the house at this point. So the agent, again, overplayed their hand. We got an extra like 3-4%. And, I'm at the settlement and, I go in, drop the paperwork off, leave. It was at my office here. And these people were so bent out of shape. And I'm thinking, hey, this is a consequence of a decision that you made. And people don't realize you're dealing with other people. This isn't like negotiating to buy a car with the dealer where you just can jam it down their throat. There's emotions involved here. And that's why you've got to know what to say, how to say it, and have empathy.
Yep. Yeah, without a doubt. Even more important than ever. So, and I think it's going to stay that way. So skill, honesty, transparency, and the days of the listing agents having the complete upper hand, it's over.
Well, you know what works really well is that when you got a challenging client or a challenging transaction, like, hey, Lisa, we're trying to get the same thing done here. So I'm going to tell you everything that's going on. My focus is getting to the table and getting my buyer or seller to sell the home or get the house that they want. And we don't have to be working against each other. It's called cooperating agent, right? So I'm going to try to make this work. I'm pretty easy to deal with. There's going to be no drama here. And if you have that conversation with agents, it's the good ones at least will respect that. And it's going to make life a hell of a lot easier for you. This doesn't need to be confrontational. And
agreed.
And people just don't, but again, folks don't make logical decisions and, people do things for a lot of different reasons. So Lisa, this is the last show before the holiday here. So you guys are you going on another luxurious trip with the Chinatti clan? You staying local? What's the game plan here? What are you guys doing?
So I am taking my girls to Disney. Pray for me. Disney over Christmas is, but it was simply because I waited so long to book anything that by the time I committed, there weren't many options left available. So Disney it was.
Sounds great. Enjoy the breakfast buffet that probably comes with your hotel room. I'm sure that's right in your diet. And are you going to get pictures of Mickey? Can we see you guys hanging out? Like what's the plan here?
Yeah, I have an amazing Disney travel agent who has planned everything. So it's all in my app. I just need to wake up and show up and it'll be blissful. I do believe our buffet includes Elsa and Anna because despite the fact that my children are 17 and 19, they are Frozen fanatics. So
that was very big at the time. I mean, that movie came out like 8-9 years ago at this point.
Yeah. So yeah, my kids will be living their best life. So after a week or so at Disney, we will then spend some time at Universal, getting down in Hogwarts land. So all will be well. How about you? What are you doing with the Toole clan?
We are staying at our house because we have a big visitor coming on Christmas Eve, and we need to get ready. So it's we're right in the thick of it. Are you going to be wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt on the plane down to Orlando? That's what I want to know.
Well, You know what I am going to actually toss out here is last night you called me like legit, like as I was wrapping up my day and you said, podcast tomorrow. We need to dress festive. And I was like, festive. Got you. Thank goodness I didn't put on an ugly Christmas sweater and show up here looking like a total and complete moron because you show up wearing your black checked button down.
This is navy blue and gray, number one. And secondly, there's a reason for this. I have multiple things I would be wearing. We're in the process of getting our bathroom redone because there was a cracked shower pan, and I don't need the ceiling collapsing. And the contractors were there, and I couldn't get into my closet this morning. So
and you couldn't pick up the phone and call me or text me and say like, "Hey, don't dress in the festive wear." Like
poor planning on my part. Okay, I mean, I will apologize to you here. You look great in your red puffy vest. Looks fantastic.
That's all I could muster up.
Matches your nails. I mean, obviously, you're ready for a big birthday celebration here. 38 years old, so we're very happy for you, Lisa.
38 years young.
38 sounds pretty good to me. So we'll leave it.
I'd take 38 again.
Yes,
I wasn't a bad year.
I'd have more hair. That's for damn sure. That'd be nice. So,
hey, what's the big Christmas gift you've been shopping for the kids this year? Like, I'm so out of touch with like the hot item.
So you have my wife's phone number, and you can find out from her because that would be the best person to talk to. You know, our girls actually asked for something from us this year, which I thought was good because we know Santa Claus only delivers certain things. So they all wanted Eagles jerseys, and it is very difficult finding these Kelly Green Eagles jerseys for people. So one of them that my son wanted doesn't even exist. You can't find it anywhere. It's a Jason Kelsey Kelly Green jersey. And the girls wanted, they wanted someone on a 1-year contract, and I vetoed it. I said, he might not be here this year. You can't buy that. So we're getting someone with some staying power. So they all wanted Eagles jerseys. I was actually pretty excited about that because, as you know, I mean, you were at our house for the NFC Championship game last year. We are big Eagles fans. So that was, I felt like I was doing something right as a parent for once. I mean, it's, 1 out of 10 ain't bad, I guess. So the kids are pretty jacked about it. It's actually a pretty cool thing when you get to do that stuff with your kids, and
what would be
it's something that lasts a long time. What would that be?
You should put tickets to a game in with the jerseys.
So they don't want to go to a game because all the Eagles games are at 8:00 at night, and they're like, we don't want to go down there. But I would take them to a game, but they're not ready for it. And plus, if you go to an 8:00 Eagles game, you get home at like 1 a.m. Like it's not, I mean, that's not great for a kindergartner and a 4th grader. And my son, we actually had offered tickets to a Sunday night game. And Leo goes, I don't want to go, Dad. I'm going to fall asleep during the game. And I'm like, okay. And I mean, they would have been great. It was actually, Luke Ackery with Reminder Media. He has the Stay Paid podcast. You probably know who he is. He invited us to the game. Very thoughtful. I'm actually getting coffee with him next week. And Leo said, I'm not doing it. And then Bridget goes, I'll take Gina down. I'm like, you weren't invited. It was me +1. So I'm sorry. This is part of the deal here. So but very nice gesture. I like watching the games at home. I mean, I think, going to a game is a little bit of a different vibe. So
fair.
I'm glad I'm not going to be in Disney. That's for sure. Oof.
Yeah.
Make sure you get your workout routine in because they like feed you around every corner at that place. Like it's,
my Disney travel agent has been sending me Instagram reels daily of all the different dessert options. And I think
Instagram reels. Oh,
yeah. You have no idea. Getting diabetic just looking at it.
Oh, my goodness. All right, everybody. Happy holidays from the Knowledge Brokers. Our gift to you is no Byron this week. We'll be back. Not next week. We're off. It's the holidays. Enjoy. We'll be back before the end of the year. And what I'll commit to is coming up with some end-of-the-year predictions from the Knowledge Brokers we can roll out in 2 weeks. Happy holidays, everyone. Lisa, happy birthday. Catch you guys in 14 days.